Sometimes I feel like I left this shit.
Good morning, good morning.
For this money, for these cars, for these clothes, for this family. This money. People persecute me, don't vote me, criticize my mind, misquote me. Niggas know I still be doing. We ain't had shit, we ain't had much. Just trying to reach people. Some of my touch. See, we pumping diesel. Ain't had no bag lunch. My brother's still illegal. We use gas pumps. My brain is the weapon. Fully automatic. Once it's elevated, then it come with attachments. What's your application? If you don't speak your mind, then it come with silences. The old nigga told me, that's what you make it. So I spent my whole life grinding, trying to make it. Some artists can't identify. Most artists basic. Choppers nails basic. Like they passing legislation. I'm on a mission, fucking prison, coexistence, idolizing. Instead of having business, charging interest, itemizing. I hope the youth, they pay attention to the dudes they idolizing. Started in detention, started shooting, victimizing. And nigga, when you get your bail, how many homies gonna provide it? This nigga stuck inside of hell, he in his family, victimized. How the fuck you tell believers what he pray for? They ain't gonna get it unless they willing to put a pain for it. Some say they selling drugs, some say it's gang wars. Some say we need hugs, what we change for it. Nigga, I came for lack of love and
my inbox this morning. Let's get it.
Overhanded with the truth. Don't shoot.
Shout out Hayes.
And what they do to black leaders, like they trying to start a war. They ain't even
getting in the mood before we get started this morning.
But they ain't even got leaders. Now the rappers mislead us. For this garbage that they feed us. There's a problem in a person. It developed in a fetus. Instead of educated, they whip them in and beat them. Nature will never give you answers. You gotta close hearted. In the streets and with this music, broad Mozart. Sky blue on 22s, I got that whole park. Said I'm just trying to buy a Mozzie like it's Oak Park.
What up, what up? So what up this morning? That's how we bring it in the morning this morning. Shout out Hayes on the beat. But let's get it. This morning we're gonna go over the Minister Farrakhan's response to the Jewish community or the Jewish leaders in the NBA, the people that's forcing everybody to do all this bullshit that everybody don't agree with in the NBA, like Kyrie and the problems with Ye. And then we also gonna talk about a Christian pastor who says a lot of like off the wall offensive statements. And it's like the way he describes history to the congregation of white people, and he's talking about what being woke is. You know what I'm saying? As if being woke is against white people. Just being woke itself. And I think it's important that we had these conversations. Now, it definitely was a monumental evening yesterday to see Farrakhan speak up. Because I tell people all the time, regardless of what we think or we personally believe, Farrakhan is the Nation of Islam has a very significant part it plays in black culture in America, especially for setting the tone historically. You know what I'm saying? With all the Jim Crow and everything, like the organization has always had a reputation of respect, but also feared in a lot of ways. But education is the key. So this morning, we're gonna tap in and we're gonna fuck with it. So let's start. We're gonna start with this Minister Farrakhan.
These unidentified by others flying objects that are present in this world to bring about the judgment of God. I am sure my teacher is deeply concerned about what is happening in Black America today that is put two of our young men, one, a great basketball player, Kyrie Irving, And another brother who is called a rapper, but he's so much more than that. Brother Ye, and the controversy that is swirling around these two men that is causing, unfortunately, division among a people that can least afford to be broken more apart because of misunderstanding and, unfortunately, parts of ignorance that we don't see the enemy.
See, from the beginning, one of the things that I respected about Minister Farrakhan, if you pay attention or you got a woke mind, I think that one of the problems in the community around the world in religion or in the aspect of great minds, we tend to be sectioned off to what we believe. Christians listen to Christians, Muslims listen to Muslims, Jewish people, rabbis listen to other Jewish people, or the Jewish people listen to that, just like whatever they believe. I'm one of the people that always I've always listened to multiple religious leaders who I felt had good hearts and would give certain clarity. So Farrakhan is, as far as information and education, he's one of my favorites since I was a kid. So if you know about the old Farrakhan and you know about this conversation 12 years ago, the good Jew versus the bad Jew, and they said he was an anti-Semitic, and they really attacked Farrakhan years ago, and that's why this hits home. That's why this is a very important conversation. But I like how he starts off, and he says that he starts off with unification instead of just coming out the box and going after the people that's coming after us for having the right to spiritually believe and not just believe, but actually having historical evidence and proof of these people.
Who is working 100% to bring bloodshed about among us because of the serious nature of what is happening that is causing them, the enemy, to use his influence on those of us who are on his payroll. And those of us who have been blessed to be connected to them could be a blessing, but it also can be a cursing. Because when
Farrakhan says it could be a blessing or it could be a curse. So he's identifying, when I listen to him, he's identifying with the Shaqs, the Stephen A. Smiths, and all of these people, all these NBA players, all these wealthy actors and entertainers who aren't speaking up, or the ones who do speak up, it seems like they're just dancing for master, or it made it look like it really, when we watch what they did to Kyrie, most of us divided in the community, like, okay, I'm not fucking with Stephen A. I'm not fucking with Shaq no more, his sellout. I'm not like, it was just showing you the foolery. And Farrakhan wanted to unify, saying we can't afford to lose any more people. And I agree with him on that logic. See, this is why I was expressing to some of my friends last night, the importance of the elders speaking up is different. So you need the elders. In order to get the older people that come from a certain format of digesting their food, he give it to them in a way. Anybody that still was around from Malcolm King in a certain era that like they shit clean, they're going to be able to get this from Minister Farrakhan, excuse my language, but just being 100% honest. Then you need somebody around my age in my 30s, and I can help gather, and other people like me can help gather other countries, right? But hold on, y'all. Somebody was calling me. And kill my train of thought. Sorry, y'all. Somebody, I try not to get calls. I got to cut my phone off, y'all. Let's keep going.
Can be a cursing. Because once the enemy puts his talons into you. He's reaching for your mind, but more than that, he's reaching for your soul to empty us and make us weak when we could be strong, and doing his bidding rather than manifesting the great love that God wants us to show toward one another. I'd like to start with Brother Kyrie. What did he do wrong? What did he do? He's searching for the knowledge of himself. He's searching to know who he is, who he belongs to. What is his root in this world? And some of you that are persecuting him are the very ones that took away from him and from us the knowledge of self. You took our language, you took our culture, you took our history, you took our minds and inserted your mind into our mind through your systems. And now God has come to lift us from this terrible condition that you have placed us in. So he saw a movie. He didn't write the movie. He wasn't the producer of the movie.
Thank for all y'all for tapping in.
He wasn't the director of the movie. Somebody told him that there was a movie titled From Hebrews to Negroes.
Now, one thing that is in common that we need to know is that the Christians believe that they were the Hebrews. The Jews believe they were the Hebrews. The Muslims believe, like, there's a constant connection. The Israelites as well. So one thing of the difference between that I always stood out about Farrakhan and the nation and the scholars is their historical references. And through the years in Farrakhan's reign, he changed the nation of Islam, in my opinion. He brought more we could talk about some of the things people didn't agree with, but there's a lot of things he brought that was very powerful. He brought history, and he brought that, like, you know, he never speaks from a perspective of just reading out the Quran. He takes history. He talks about, he'll quote the Bible, he'll quote the Torah. So it's a combination. When I talk to a lot of people about understanding of religion and history, they all go together. If law and history go together, then so does religion. Or what we call religion, dogma. Right? But they stole our language. They stopped us from speaking our language. And all the languages on the planet, most of us codified and created. They took the things that was important to us and they stopped us. And they gave us a false history, a false sense of hope of ourselves. And then they get mad at us for even trying to find it. That's what the message is of this today.
It's an interesting title, because many of our people don't know anything about being a Hebrew. We know that we passed through something called Negro, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that means someone dead, lifeless, hard, neutral. We didn't name ourselves a Negro. They named us that because they put us in the condition that name represents. Kyrie and Ye and all of you now that are involved in the conversation, could you just step back a moment and let's reason together? He saw the movie because of all of the anger and dislike and breaking apart.
Hold on 1 second. See, that's why I enjoy the chat. Thank you, bro. Because I got thrown off. A second ago, and I couldn't remember what I was saying. And my boy Levy said you were speaking on dancing for master dudes. Appreciate it. Because I did lose my train of thought. So that's the importance of everybody being on the same page. I appreciate it. One of the things I was saying is that when we was watching them go after Kyrie, nobody was paying attention. Like Farrakhan started, he used unity as the first conversation at the beginning instead of coming at it straight, was because he seen a division between us because we was choosing not to fuck with certain people. I mean, I was depending on what the fuck you put on Facebook, depending on if I was fucking with you. Like that's how should I say, that's how important this shit is. You know what I'm saying? For integrity and for the mindset of our people. You know what I'm saying? So when we seen it, Farrakhan was addressing that these people were taken out of college and high school and record deals and movie contracts. And then they feel like they were honored to be accepted into that, right? So they take it personal, like they family. They was allowed to come to the synagogues that we seen LeBron walking through. So they feel like it's family. Some of them married in. So they took it personal. So he's seen the division because the culture was about to switch. It was almost going to be like two different parties in the black community, which I think at some point in time is going to happen. It's hard to believe that if we look historically, that I don't think it was ever a time where all black people believe the same thing. I've never seen it. There's never a time where all the people was under one thing. That's what we have to understand about like the Moors, the Hebrew Israelites, the Christians. I don't remember a time where everybody was the same. And that goes back to why they were fighting. And depending on who won the most wars, of course, they felt like their gods was better or more dominant. And that's where a lot of the guys that we got today, and compared to the original guys, are the ones that we know nothing about, sit around. Now, them dancing for the master, we could attack them, which they got ate up on social media, but we had to realize how much power we had, because once social media started talking about how we didn't like it, everybody changed their tune. You know what I'm saying? So when everybody changed their tone and they tune and they tone of voice, then they started changing theirs. Like, well, I don't like how it go. Like the stipulations was out, I always say. But I wanted to get back on that because the point was that Farrakhan he started off with unity to try to get us to understand that we're still on the same team. No, even our brothers who embarrassed us or took us to massa and told on us, we still need them to get the point, because just like in the old show where they was running from the slave master, the sellout brother, the head house nigga, he right at the end, he set them up. So when they went to run at the beginning, all of them was hiding in the cotton fields, and he came out there with like the 8 overseers. And he's like, Ataha, and then they all was about to get killed, but he had a gun on him, and he ended up shooting all the slave masters and running with the slaves. So the point is, it was like the importance of understanding that we still fighting the same war.
I said, let me see this movie. And I and my wife and my family, we watched the movie the other night. It was well researched. The people that did it, they had a purpose. The purpose of those people was to show us how we got from Hebrew
to
Negro. As I watched that, I could see my brother. He's not thinking about hating somebody. He's thinking about learning more about himself, because we're tired of being what others have made us. We must become ourselves again.
See, the importance was when Farrakhan was saying that with it, the point that was one of the most important points that he's making now and earlier was the fact that people are going at the knowledge of self. So when we're dealing with knowledge of self, it's a big journey, because in order to go after knowledge of self, you have to have questioned what you've learned, or you had to have felt like you wanted more understanding of self, because even in the Bible or the Torah or the Quran, it says, man, know thyself. Right? But the more we reach out for knowledge of self, the more that it's a pushback and we getting an issue. So anybody who, when I talk to people in different religious sects and I talk to them about knowledge of self, and they be like, man, that's the devil's science. How is that? So the fact that knowledge of self is something that we all need for ourselves, regardless of what color you so-called are as America, culture, or where your ancestors come from. But knowledge of self, right? And I always think of I, self, law, and master. I, myself, is responsible for knowing the laws on the land I live on. And I'm the master of my environment. I, self, law, and master. And master, Islam. So I want you to understand the importance to know knowledge of self. When we say Islam, not even we talking about the religious aspect of Islam, but Islam, the science, the study of self. See, that's why a lot of people, when I talk to a lot of brothers who are Muslims in America, I let them know, you know that the Moors are Muslim and they have a Quran. See, a lot of people don't know that. And these are the things. Knowledge of self. When I was studying with the Moors, what I learned was knowledge of self. But the hardest part was I grew up Christian, and I also grew up half my life in a Muslim household. But from my Christian foundation, I was afraid that by learning knowledge of self, my first couple of years, I was kind of hard on myself because I felt like I was going to go to hell for even challenging the knowledge that they gave me of Jesus, because that was the programming that I had. And that's just the aspect of how I felt for the first couple of years. Like, man, what if I'm wrong? If I denounce him, which denouncing is as simple as researching others, I guess, as they would say. But any place that tell you not to question, in any place, is a problem. Knowledge of self, of yourself. Everything outside in the universe is inside the body. Knowledge of self, where you come from, your history. Knowledge of self, the origins of mankind. Knowledge of self, your family, your children.
And he was interested in that journey, and I can listen to him, and I can see him, and I can see that's the journey that he's on. He's not trying to hurt the Nets. He's not trying to hurt the brothers that are playing ball with him. But he is trying to be true to himself. The greatest.
See, I want you to recognize that the NBA and no job has the right to tell you what you believe. If I go to work tomorrow, if you go to work tomorrow, and they found out that on your Facebook and your Instagram you was listening to me, and they say, hey, a lot of employees start making noise, your job thinking nothing of it, your boss. Next thing you know, within a day or two, the news is coming. They say, hey, you know, this employee was listening to Willie Walker on this morning convo talking all of this sporadic shit. And he was listening to Minister Farrakhan. He was teaching them knowledge of self, Moors, law. He was teaching them all aspects. He was trying to teach them to connect the dots between the Christians, the Muslims, the Moors, the Israelites, and realize that a lot of these are all the same people. There's proof in Egypt that the Moors and the Israelites left together, and some Egyptians. So when this gets out and then the news gets on and it becomes big in Raleigh, and the next thing you know, it gets in the hand when it becomes statewide, and by the end of the week, you suspended from your job with no pay. Now, I had the conversation. You just watched. Oh, you shared it on Facebook or Twitter. So I want y'all to understand on a simple form how deep this is for us. See, Kyrie, on a magnified level, they always said when they took Donald Trump's Twitter page, I realized that we were in trouble. If they can take the president's page, then we all need to be websites. I know already, I probably got another year or two online in certain platforms like Facebook before they'll start controlling it and stop allowing me. Like I told you, I'm on a ban right now for 29 days for writing a post that had nothing to do with the Jewish people, or I wasn't even live, but I can't go live or do anything on Facebook for 29 days. Well, it's about 20 days now. Right? But I want y'all to pay attention. Now, after the news gets it in the state, after it go from your job, from the employees to the news, to the city, from the city to the state, now they give you suspension. And they suspended without pay. Think about the logic.
This teaching of the God who came to find us and save us. He said, accept your own and be yourself.
Thanks.
That is what Kyrie is trying to do. Find his own, accept his own, and be himself.
Yeah.
I heard an intelligent brother, not a foolish man, but a man that has found something that is more valuable for him than being loved as a great, fantastic ball player. So many of you, my brothers, who are former players, and you've been so good at it, and you know who your managers have been, you know who your accountants have been and are, you know who your agents have been and are, you know who the owners of the teams that you play on, whether it's basketball, football, I don't know, whatever it is, you know who they are. And because of your greatness, they have decided that you should become rich. For hundreds of years, they didn't decide like that. For hundreds of years, they loved that you were poor and talented, so they could be your managers. They could be your agents.
He said for years they loved that you was poor. Come on, man. Come on. For years they loved that you was poor, so that they knew that you had the talent. But Lupe said the rich think the rich think he said it, let me say it right. The poor think the rich have the source. The rich think the poor has the cure. And everybody's torn. You think about that. This is the reason. Think about Ali. The group, it was a group. Remember that documentary that came out years ago? It was like a group of a whole bunch of white men and Jewish men. And they were the ones who basically made up the Muhammad Ali brand. And when he went to start talking, how he got shut down.
They could give you knowledge and give you favor. You don't see as God would love for you to see.
Appreciate y'all for tapping in.
Because there are forces among us that they are afraid of. They are afraid that you will discover the truth of yourself and them. They don't want.
They are afraid of. This is the key of you discovering yourself and who they are. See, the fear of you understanding who you are is fear in itself, because what you know about your past and your history depends on how far you can go, any people. But they're afraid of you learning the truth of history and what role they played. See, nobody really was bold enough to say who gonna hold them accountable for financing the slave trade. Who gonna hold them accountable for understanding where the music is today? And even though the whole community gonna say that's not us, we're trying to live every day just like me and you. That may be true in certain areas, because there's the poor, there's the middle class, and hierarchy. The hierarchy of your society. are in bed with the slave masters.
Want you to find who you are. Because once you know yourself, the next step is you got to rise up from where you are to be yourself. And yourself is a noble person.
See, I never forget my mother told me when I was first learning all of this, she said to me, she said, what's crazy is that, see, what comes with knowing, it comes with great responsibility. You can't, once you wake up or once you know things, it's almost impossible to stay in that same mindset that you was in before. Always remember that.
Righteous person. A person that can be labeled the Son of God. The Bible says of us, ye are all God's children of the Most High God.
I want y'all to peep that real quick. See, that was real slick. That was real slick. I want to tell you how our celebrities and who get knowledge is real slick about their joint. They don't want to call them ye, because think about what Farrakhan just said. He said, the Bible says, ye, yea, are all gods. See, this is the part that everybody skips over. All of the pastors and imams, they speak on it, but they always say it doesn't mean you're God. There's a difference between God and the creator of universal solar systems. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference. The creator and the God. More than likely, a God has a creator, or what we would deem to be a God.
So Ye must have discovered something. He said, I am God. People that were interviewed, they don't talk like that. Why? Because you don't want us to identify with God. It's all right for us to call each other, yo, dog, how things going, dog?
See, let's stop again. Farrakhan is very sharp with his words, right? Farrakhan said, because you don't want us to call ourselves God or identify with God, but you want us to call each other dog, which is God backwards. So if we talking science and we just reverse the polarity of the word God, G-O-D, and we flip it backwards to D-O-G, to Dogon tribe, to, you know, but even in that sense, when you flip it and say God and you flip it back to make a person feel less than, you think a dog today. What up, dog? That's my dog. Like, as if we, and I, you know, I breed dogs, so I got a high respect for dogs. And I don't think that they less than, but at the same time, my child and my wife is still, they're not a dog. They don't live under the same principles. But they rather us call each other dogs. So I want y'all to pay attention to every word used by Farrakhan.
But each of us, Elijah Muhammad said, when you see a black man, you are looking at God. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
See, I don't care what you believe. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a part of the Nation of Islam, but mentally, I guess I am. I'm not a part of, you know what I'm saying, the Science Temple of America, but they teachings live in me. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite, but some of their teachings still live inside me, because I was smart enough to recognize that all of these things had truth in them. While everybody else fighting over what's the truth is spread out. And the reason why everybody's so passionate about it, because there's pieces of truth in all books. There's also tampering, bullshit, lies, power, and control.
Wanted to give us that kind of knowledge.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the
and he made us to stop using the term nigger and call each other brother, call each other sister, and learn to love for your brother what you love for yourself. And there are many black people in America and around the world that are digging at the knowledge of self. Many in America digging at the knowledge of self and sharing what they know. So Kyrie saw the movie and he wanted to share it.
And so what, he did it
with those that follow him. You know how we've been.
So you remember earlier I told you I took it as if this was like you at work and you told and somebody seen you live watching me and it went from the city, it went from the job to the news, to the city, to the state, 10-year suspension. Remember the whole time while you going through all this bullshit, I was the person who spoke on. That's like they don't never say shit to me. All they do is put it all over the news and everybody go watch that convo and my brand get big as a motherfucker. It makes no sense. But they don't want him because he a nobody technically, but they blowing him up through Kyrie. See, sometimes when you being evil, you don't realize you also still doing the work of the creator.
You find a reefer and it's good to you, you call your friends and you share your reefer. They're not mad with that.
Facts.
Yo, dog, come on, let's smoke this blunt.
Real shit.
You don't say nothing about that.
Not a word.
But when they get knowledge and want to share knowledge, they're not talking against you. They work to make you richer as you work to make them some money too.
So he's saying just like how we smoke and we see DJ Ghost, you see me right now? Because you know I'm a connoisseur, even with knowledge, regardless of what people think. You know what I'm saying? Every coach in history had certain plants that they were sacredly using in many ways, right? So I want people to always remember that. But I want y'all to realize that Farrakhan is saying that if an athlete starts promoting a marijuana or a liquor or these things are hurtful to, as they would say, well, marijuana, as we can put that to the side, but think about everything else that they go against, and even there's hurtful effects to marijuana. It is. So it's okay to endorse things like alcohol, drugs, killing, but if they speak on knowledge of self, you can lose your endorsements. Shit makes no sense.
These people aren't anti-Semitic. Every one of them ain't never done nothing against you as a Jewish person. They don't do that. Not one of those do things to purposely harm a Jewish person. The man went to a movie. He saw something.
Hey, Rick, you know, it's funny. I remember who was it? As Dr. Ben would say back in the day, like, you know, everybody who criticized, I have been criticized about smoking weed and shit, but Dr. Ben would say he had like 5 doctorates. He said, that's my right. That's my right. Right? If I want to smoke, that's my right. I ain't hurting nobody. I ain't trying to shoot nobody. I just want to learn, smile, and focus. You know what I'm saying? But it just reminded me when you said break it down, because Dr. Ben, he was like, that's my right. You know, that's my guy. We're going to do some Dr. Ben probably tomorrow morning. You know what I mean?
Taught him more about himself, and he wanted to share it. You looked at his passing on what he thought was knowledge that would sink his roots back in the soil of himself and the God. And you felt threatened by that.
Right.
Why owners of the Nets, why did you feel threatened?
Why? That's the biggest question. Why would they threaten him? The Nets owner is not a Jewish guy. The thing about it was he could have not agreed with it, but said, look, I'm not going to suspend him. I think it's too much, and we're going to stand by him. He would have gained a lot of respect from a lot of players around the world for just, they know that they could play for Brooklyn, and if they had a religious belief, it would be protected. A lot of players would respect that around the league, and they would get a bigger boost for players who felt like you can go to Brooklyn and be yourself. So it would have gained them more than it hurt them. So where did it hurt Brooklyn? We need to follow the money.
He didn't call you out by name. He just said he saw something and he put it up. You called it what? Anti-Semitic trope.
Whatever the hell that means.
The movie is almost a little over 2 hours.
Thanks.
I'm sure there are things in there that you didn't like. But there are many things that you all have written about us that we don't like. You have been the one making us hate who we are and hate our origin in the world. You're the one that made Tarzan and told us that that's part of us. You've done all of this to us.
Think about it.
And we couldn't say nothing.
So we think about Tarzan, the subliminals. They, you know, in the shows, a lot of times they would show a white boy raised in the jungle, which is a double subliminal. Because they would say, oh, well, that's where it would almost would say, well, people from Africa were raised by animals, and that's how we live, swinging from trees and shit. So it was a disrespect there on a multiple level, right? But if we even had any sense of history, we would have seen that in the cartoon it was the white man being raised by animals, because that's what the depiction was. At certain points in Tarzan, I guess the original ones, I guess they were black. But the ones when we got in our lifetime, Tarzan was a white boy, so he was getting raised by animals. So I just want y'all to think about that. So it's a multi-level lie truth, as I can say. It would say that if you're saying that the people in Africa live like that, talk about they was raised by animals, because we animals, and we swung from trees, and that's why we act the way we act. But on the other end, if you look at it from a open-minded perspective and historic perspective, you say, okay, so this is like a white man in the jungle raised by animals in an environment he doesn't come from, but they found him as a baby and he was raised with animals. You get what I'm saying? I think that the story has so many different subliminals.
You're the one that made a darky, a little black Sambo, and you made us to see that as who we are.
Dance, nigga, dance.
Can't you see that we're tired of that? So because I and others of knowledge are spreading knowledge of God, knowledge of self, knowledge of the time, and also knowledge of an enemy. Because we couldn't be in a condition like this if all of you were our friends. We have enemies. And those enemies have dropped us down in the back.
See, when they talk about we was friends here, like, you know, we always say to say, well, you know, certain people around the world, they was friends to the blacks during our struggles, and they was friends, and well, we friends, and why are we still getting done dirty? And why some of the markets that some of the people of your culture, your most pristine, are destroying and breaking our fucking culture down to pieces through the imagery and the music and the shit that we going through. So to watch us suffer and cry and hurt and not understand why, when clearly there's a study to this music shit and the arts and the science and visualization, how could you say you love me and you my brother but don't fuck with me or try to really help me? You just take advantage of me and everything that I'm good at. It's like Get Out, where he was like, man, you a weapon. You was born a weapon. Looking at the black man and his body and everything about him. How he's a waste of skin and flesh if he ain't using it to be a weapon.
Barrel of waste. We're not around here hating you, but we tell the truth of what we know, of what some of you have done to put us in the condition that we're in. Kyrie found something. I want you to say that you are sorry for saying something that is anti-Semitic. And he kept telling you, I can't be anti myself.
I can't be. Because we the Semitic people.
You didn't want to hear that. You know you came from us. You know that you are not the father of humanity. We know our history and we know yours.
And we stand on it. So that's the mentality of our people, especially black men today who feel broken. Don't be afraid to tell a person you are not, your DNA and your ancestors are not the father of life or the mothers of life. We know who we are today. And as Kyrie said, our generation, we're not afraid of it. We respect our parents and for everything they did, and we won't discredit their journey and our grandparents because that's how we got here. But we got the information. And we know who we are. And we know our worth. And we can give two shits about how anybody feel about it, just like I didn't give a fuck about how we feel about theirs. Everybody can be proud about their heritage but us. We know who we are.
Kyrie found something.
Hold on, y'all.
Of humanity. Know that you are not the father of humanity. We know our history and we know yours.
And we know yours.
We don't like what you're doing to Kyrie or to Ye. And when we see how you want to break him, destroy him, to keep him from saying anything that might enlighten our people. Do you know when you mess up his mind like that, he can't play? I saw the man playing ball the other day and he missed every shot, almost.
Yeah, he missed every shot. He couldn't play.
He can't
they
play
on the sideline
with his
talking
mind
shit.
in that state.
Come on, man.
And when his brother, Kevin Durant...
Think about it. Think about it. I'm at work. Why would my job let people sit courtside and antagonize me the whole night? Why would someone who claims they respect me allow it? If they wanted to sit further back or that, like security could have came and said, I need y'all to go back. But to be that right there on the floor to use their money and power, that's bullying.
Said, I don't like none of this. He's not saying he don't like the movie. He's not liking what you're doing to a man who wasn't doing nothing against you, but searching for greater knowledge. And you decided to break him. You decided to put fear into men like Charles Barkley.
Right. Right.
And LeBron James and other black men who had become rich and powerful. You wanted to say, you were saying to them as you were lynching Kyrie, you all better get the point. You all better get the message.
That niggas better get in order.
They don't want you rising up into that knowledge that will make you a real man.
They don't want you to know this shit because at the end of the day, they want you to operate as these thug street niggas, these little boy ass niggas. No disrespect, but disrespect. Because that's the mentality we on when we outside. We think we operating in men off our ego and our masculine and our domination and physicality and how much harm we can do each other. That's how little kids think. That was the mentality of Bam Bam in Europe. The Flintstone mentality, the cave motherfuckers. They don't want us to grow up. I want y'all to think about that shit.
Rich and powerful. You wanted to say, you were saying to them as you were lynching Kyrie, you all better get the point.
And they was using our people that was in high power to say, hey, any of the rest of y'all talk up, we're going to do y'all the same fucking way to Shaq and Stephen A. Smith. Y'all better get in line and follow the program. Y'all think jail the only place they got a fucking program? This music industry, this whole shit got a program. You better follow the program or get your program turned off, especially if you were part of the program or signed up for the program.
You all better get the message. They don't want
attention.
you rising up into that knowledge that will make you a real man. and not a glorified punk.
Not a glorified punk.
I'm saying to the ADL, sir, we know you. And we know that we know you, and you know that we know you. Don't talk to Kyrie by himself. He can go and look at the horror of the Holocaust. Why don't you come and look at the horror of what your parents have done to Black people in America and throughout the world? Why don't you come and study and repent of your evil to us? Then maybe we can sit down and have a talk.
Saying, what nerve do they have to ask Kyrie to come and sit down and to get re-educated? Who the fuck are they? If my mother and father raised me to be Muslim, Jewish, Islam, Hebrew, Israelite, who has the right at my job or anybody to tell me I need to re-educate myself if I want to come back to work? Excuse me? You are not my God. You are not my creator, and I don't follow you, and I don't worship you, and I don't respect you, and I don't fear you. But how about you come sit down with us and let's talk about who financed the slave trade? Where did Queen Isabella get her money from? The wealthy Jews. Let's talk about that, the fact that we can prove that it is Jewish people that run hip hop. And look at what the fuck they selling us. Even the real artists don't like it. Come have a conversation with us about slavery and all the bullshit that went on. Have a conversation about, come sit down with us and help us re-educate your people, because I done heard about 30, 40 different Jewish people speak, that like the ones that's bold, because not all of them, I know they don't represent them all, but it gives us an idea of the true mindset and the ideology. We're not fucking afraid of you blacks. If you want to be a real Jew, do what Amari Stoudemire and Sean did and go and get down with the real Jews. And he said, and just like the Muslims and just like the Israelites, we don't promote conversion like y'all do, as if saying we're not interested in even, we don't really offer conversion. I mean, you could do it, but we ain't interested. So you understand the history. The history will tell you Muhammad first learned a lot of his knowledge from the Ethiopian Jews. Muhammad. So we got a bad idea. That's why when I talk, everybody I talk to when I had these conversations, the reason why with me is kind of like, man, niggas need to read and study. I don't want to have a conversation with half the niggas, especially. I don't mind having a conversation. You ain't got to know it all, but you got to be open-minded. And I can learn from you, but you got to realize that I don't give a fuck what you reading. If you notice that Farrakhan, he quoted the Bible and he quotes certain things, but he ain't reading out the Bible though. History. Real history, not his story, American history, but history. Put in alignment with the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, or any people's truth. Because people say, I had people tell me all the time, just because you read out a book don't mean it's true. That's true. But when two civilizations are at war with each other, there's other civilizations watching that have nothing to benefit. They're not invested in the war financially, spiritually, physically. And you got the winners who write the war, the historians there that whatever they leave in stone or whatever, what they say happened. And then you have the people that watched it, or the honest people of the civilization that win. That's how we find the truth. When I tell you that a religious book has no bibliography, it's not to attack you, but it's to get you to open your mind and to realize that when we deal with religion on any form, Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, Noble Drew, any religion, Hebrew Israelite, these books are depicting a history of multiple people. So like y'all tell me, how come I can read it in a book and believe it? Why do you believe it? Just because you read it in a book and you didn't go research them people. So it's easy to look at these people, the Persians, as the enemy until you realize they look like me with a gold, with a sunnah, with a beard. They like Rick Ross. When you go look at the Spartans and realize they were brown skinned, they look mixed a little bit, just like the Greeks. Until you realize that they look like you. And then you start referencing these same stories back in the Quran and the Bible and the Torah, and you start realizing as a person that all of these people that's getting attacked in these books and these stories is people of this. If you got any brain, you start to question about what God you serving. But we cowards and we comfortable with having somebody else tell us information that we don't want to get. And I felt like when Farrakhan talked, I felt that fire I ain't felt in a long time in my chest, because it was like, that's what I'm about. That's what we have to stand on. That's the principle we're gonna have to stand on. You want our black athletes to go sit down because you want to say athletes. Most of them are not historians. Most of them play ball. That's their passion. Not that they're not stupid. Kyrie went to Duke. But they know Kyrie has a connection to the intellectual black man. That's the issue.
Like civilized human beings.
Look at the chat. Good morning.
Ye is not a hater. Ye is a lover. Kyrie is the same. But he wants to stand on a principle. And you see him standing, how intelligent he is, and the media keeps running at him with, why don't you say you apologize for this anti-Semitism?
Real.
You did the same thing to me. I've tried to have meetings with you. Let's dialogue about this. You don't want to dialogue with me. You want to dialogue with somebody that you know you can put down because of the power you have over them by giving them a contract and money that you can take from.
You want to dialogue with somebody that if they say what you, if they start speaking or standing up for something, you can take from them and put them back in situations that they don't know how to deal with anymore. You don't want to talk to nobody for progress. You want to talk to somebody, you want them to sit down. Sit down, boy. Now you're gonna do what the fuck I say, and you're gonna abide by these 6 terms. And once you're finished, we'll take you off that noose. Cause see, we ain't really hang you. We put you up as the image. We just had you standing there, imagery of you was on the noose, but we ain't kicked the stool. So if you do these 6 things that I asked you, we'll take you off the noose.
So now you sign them up.
Real talk.
And then Adidas comes by and Nike comes by and gives them a lot of money that they don't see.
See, I want y'all to understand. Let's talk business for a quick second. The reason why Nike and Adidas swoop in on these athletes is because when they're 18, 19, first getting out of school, the millions isn't what you think. They're getting paid money, but it's so that Kyrie, LeBron, and them could never own their own shoe. That's what the money is for. For as long as they're on earth and as long as their brand exists, they can never own their own shoe because they paid them for the sole rights of their name to the shoe. Mike didn't even own the fucking shoe. He was partnered with Nike. I think eventually he got off. But they were doing him the same way they were doing Kanye. Let me explain. Nobody thought about it. When we was growing up, Michael Jordan had that contract. But we used to go to the store and see them Jumpmans. And we all assumed that them fucking Jumpmans was Mike's. The Jumpmans were cheaper. They were marketed as a team shoe. I bet you Mike didn't get one fucking penny off them Jumpmans. Because Mike had to go back and buy the logo and buy his name and get, and that's how. But by the time you come back for it, Mike was so wealthy, championship endorsements, he could come back with the other money because he needed the. They ain't gonna give you enough money to buy it, even with the contract, because every time you go up, the worth for you go up. So you're gonna have to get money outside, other endorsements, other things you do. But remind you, they've already made $1 billion and you about to pay them another $1 billion. It's a deep game.
Or have them on a leash. And whenever somebody like Kyrie or Ye rise up and you don't like it, you pull the chain.
Yeah.
So we run out and dog our own brother.
So we listening to this morning.
Because he did something for a principle. You will too. Life is bigger than paper with a white man's image on it.
Mm-hmm.
Life is bigger than a nice house and a nice car and a lot of bling bling.
You gotta remember, they figured out a long time ago, about 56, towards the civil rights movement. One thing they learned that was the most powerful tool was finance. And they realized that a lot of our parents and grandparents, you give them a little bit of finance and some freedom and let them get a little happiness, they ain't gonna fight that fight no more. See, they didn't understand we didn't have nothing. It's easy for everybody with nothing to come together. But when a fourth of us got a lot, and 1/4 of us got a little something, and 1/4 of us middle class, and 1/4 of us poor, it's gonna be hard. Because when it's time, when the bottom of that 4 parts, right? Because I gave you 4 parts. The lowest class is that poor. When they ready to march, this class right here, they ain't too far from them, but they got something to lose. So they're a little more rigid, but they close to the struggle. But the other two, they're doing all right for themselves and doing extremely good for themselves. They not connected at all. They like, I'm not about to lose this shit. Wait. Why are we fighting right now? There has to be another way. And the wealthy, how the hell no, they don't want no war. Does that mean that they got to partially finance it?
Ye lost $2 billion in a few days.
Overnight.
You might wonder, did he really have it?
No.
He lost that much that soon? You know when you signed a contract with him. I don't know what's in the contract, but you do.
But you do.
So evidently, Adidas and all the companies that Brother Kanye is signed to or was signed to until Mr. Ari Emanuel told everybody just drop him.
And that's the person who did this.
Beloved brothers and sisters.
Powerful man.
Your day is soon coming. I'm asking you, stop beating each other up in the public. Stop doing that. But of course, that's what the master wants us to do. There's a slave here that's getting out of place, and teach him a lesson.
Teach him a lesson.
Beat him up. I'm saying to you, don't do that. Call your brother. Come and sit down with
The
him.
old folks used to say, if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say shit at all. If somebody attacking somebody that look like us, and if you don't really understand, you're supposed to sit back and let the truth fall into his lap. We're supposed to let it debate.
In his theater. Go see it. You don't want to read Secret Relationship with Blacks and Jews that we financed, we researched. Yes, sir. And you told me when we sat down. We had dinner together in the home of the Jewish rabbi.
Now, I want everybody, I'm not going to say much. I want y'all to listen to, this is where this story connects on a different level. When I told y'all earlier that 12 years ago, Farrakhan had a speech, the good Jew versus the bad Jew. and they called him anti-Semitic, and he sat down with him, and he's telling you what happened when he did it. That's why this is so personal. In my opinion, it was kind of like Farrakhan felt like afterwards, I let it simmer down, but I ain't gonna let this one slide.
Went. Others went. I brought some of my people, and there were 2 rabbis. There was Irv Kupcinet, great reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times. And after we had a beautiful dinner together, we looked like we were going to be on a page together where the controversy could stop. But the rabbi said to me, this is love fest that is near the end of the dinner. But then he reached in his pocket and pulled out an envelope and said, but this is tough love. We want something from you. And they said, Minister, we have to watch you over a protracted time to make sure that you've changed. Then we had just put out the first volume of The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. And you all told me, we want you to renounce this book. Because it's a great calumny against the Jewish people. You said that to me. You said to me, nobody that is deemed an enemy to the Jewish people is ever written of well in history. You know you control much of the publishing industry. So if you write the books, your people are heavily placed in the media. So when you all get ready to dog us out, you call those in that you pay. Then you told me that if I did all the things that you all asked me to do, you would clean up my image. You knew you dirtied it. But I'm not going to beg and bow to you to clean up my image. God is sufficient for me. And God is sufficient for Kyrie and Ye. And God is sufficient for everyone who has been made a millionaire, a multimillionaire, a billionaire.
Well, thank everybody for being in the chat.
And then you call your man at Forbes and tell them, put it in the book that there's a new billionaire black kid on the block. There's Miss Oprah, one of the most beautiful women you could ever have as a friend. But now she has something to lose if she's not careful. Careful means you have to guard your mouth. So you used to be able to open it.
Yo, Farrakhan retarded.
I'm going to do that again. You used to be able to open it. Now when they pull that chain.
See, it's amazing that he spoke about Oprah. As much money and as powerful as we think Oprah is, she ain't said a word. And she ain't said a word in hardly any of the black issues because she's so wealthy. You remember I told you about that top of that 1/4 of our community? They got way too much to lose. They ain't ready to go to war and be back living with us. They got too much to lose. They don't want to lose the lifestyle. And to us, we like, man, that's some boozy shit. Until it's you. Until it's yours. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. So he said she had all this power, but now she can't even pin it. It's funny because you think about Oprah and her station. She got a whole network. But instead of her focusing on people, she fine as long as she focuses on servicing women. But if she does more than that, because I'm not against her, sir, she's a woman. But if she used that same energy and focused it on like the people and the struggle, I don't even see Oprah of recent. I mean, in the chat, tell me, no, she never does. But she's cool with that's my point. She cares, and she's a respectable woman. I won't disrespect Oprah. I think I've seen some times when that I felt like she kind of came at some people a little strong, but she also, Oprah. I can respect Oprah, but the question is, if she's best friends with all of them, well, what is Oprah doing to fight and help? Who's risking anything? People say, yo, it don't matter with you, bro. You got to all right following, but and it's growing, but don't nobody really, you don't got enough followers to shake the culture. Hey, you only need a couple hundred to be a problem, though. That's the point that I be trying to get people to see. You know what I'm saying? Most churches ain't got 1 million people. You know what I'm saying? Or places of worship. You know what I mean? So it don't take that many. But Mage, what up, Mage? But Oprah, if she's best friends with them but never said a word publicly, then what does that mean? And that's what I think that when he brought up Oprah is almost to say like, damn, like you just gonna sit back?
Now you can't find your voice. You're afraid. When fear grips you because you think you're gonna lose you, so you don't want to venture out because you're afraid.
Word.
I say this, dear beloved,
hold on, y'all. Clearly,
stand the action or the effect of. Because if you stand and fight with truth and unity, you'll never lose even what you got.
Thanks.
They don't want to be shown up. They want to put fear into you. And they do have power to hurt us. And God has plenty of power to hurt them. So I think I'll stop now.
It's deep.
But if you want our brothers to come and sit with your rabbis and visit the Holocaust Museum, why not let one of our scholars come and sit with them? Because we know the Torah, by God's grace. We know the Talmud.
We wrote them.
And we know you and your history.
And we know the atrocities of the things that the people of different cultures, whether the European or what we call the Jewish people, right? And this is a deep question that I want people to think about. You know, we speak about karma, but have we ever asked ourselves about the Holocaust? Just like how our karma, I teach my people that our karma, slavery was our karma. Not that I agree with it. It was our karma from all the foul shit we had done in power. So have we ever thought that The Holocaust, as horrific as it is, it's like our oppression. You ever ask yourself, why did the universe give it back to them that way? We conquered civilizations, killed people, took over, and eventually those civilizations got slaughtered and taken over the same way. So I think that's why it's so important for us to understand those things. And I'm gonna go back a tad bit.
Why not let one of our scholars come?
When Farrakhan say, why not let our scholar, you're gonna bring Kyrie and Ye and Kyrie, right? Then where's the real sharp people, the Farrakhans, you know what I'm saying? The historians. I'm talking about, it's some female historians that are untouchable. I'm talking about, you know, when they go there, they're gonna have a rabbi and a couple of guys. They go there, we go there with our best. So that when they start straddling that line with our athletes or with Yale, with anybody who feels it, because it's gonna be a movement. All the athletes and people who feel like they feel gonna go. But when they start straddling the lines, we have to have people there that can hold them accountable to the history. You can't ask us to apologize for something when you never apologized for financing the slave trade. You can't ask us to apologize to y'all when what about all the black mothers whose sons got murdered in hip hop that's being financed through companies that are owned by Jewish men? See, they don't like when we had this conversation and when we say Jewish men because they don't want to be associated as a whole. But everybody lump us the fuck together like we ain't nothing but some cattle still outside.
And sit with them. Because we know the Torah, by God's grace. We know the Talmud. And we know you and your history. Leave our people alone.
I had people tell me, I know a lot of people watched me the last 4 or 5 years, and some people love me, some people didn't. But I was learning to get together, to transition, and also to just be bold and speak up. A lot of the things I said seemed like they were far-fetched, what I said about black man and black woman, or what we call, you know, I speak in adab, but what we understand, or what I spoke about nature, life, laws, the Moors, you know what I'm saying? How I even spoke on the fact of the matter that nobody could do more for us than the Nation of Islam. So people wonder why, like, man, why do you respect Farrakhan so much? Because in America, the Nation of Islam has the only temple I know that got a military. It's the only one. I don't know any other church don't got no military. The Hebrew Israelites, I mean, the people in it end up being the military, but they know the FOI, mean business. And I feel like, I want to say Farrakhan might be one of the few people from that era that's still around. So it's important. He puts the elderly on the same page with the youth. When Farrakhan speaks and brings this atrocity, he brings it to the generation before us that don't get their information from YouTube and all the other stuff, and they don't pass knowledge the same way. They went to certain people, and see, the older class, they learn to entrust certain people, and depending on who you trusted your mind with, depending on how much you was tampered with and how much you was given. But we all should respect Farrakhan because of all of the modes. He acknowledged the Moors. He acknowledged the Hebrew Israelites. In this conversation, he's acknowledging the Hebrew Israelites as brothers. He said, I watched the documentary, and it was well researched. Coming from Farrakhan, it's like, he's the closest thing to Martin Luther King in a lot of ways, even though people gonna argue the point because I know it's history, but regardless, Farrakhan's legacy isn't all dirty and negative at all. But Farrakhan is the last person he's one of the few, he's not the last, that speaks up in that way, because other people in the elderly men, this is why, in my opinion, they have to lead. The elderly get everybody on that time on a call with the 30-year-olds, and 30 and 40-year-olds can talk to their group, but get them a call with them because we came up under them. So there's a natural connection with us and them because those are our parents. But our children don't have a connection to them. We do. But our relationships with our kids has been too friendly instead of rooted in principle and self-control and knowledge. So that's why everybody get to play games with our kids' mind. The movies, the music industry, everything.
Leave Kyrie alone. Step back and see what you're unleashing.
And y'all hit the like button for me. I hate to say that, but that's the only way this is going to work for this to grow. The like button is what's going to put the algorithm on for people that like it. It'll keep it up and keep it relevant.
But he took up that you took it too far. Some others say you buck breaking. Because you still are an old wicked slave master. Yes, sing for me, nigga. Don't
see when they got mad. See, when Kyrie shared this tweet, that's why I said in their anger, they also showed their hand. So in the anger, when they made controversy about it, is one thing, but how they kept asking him, and did you notice they only asked black players? They kept asking black players because if a black player answers, it's the attack. But they showed their hand because they spoke their mind, but then they bullied and bullied and bullied and bullied. They wasn't interested in what Kyrie had to say. Because see, the whole interview, the day he got suspended, there's the whole interview if you ever seen it. They didn't show it on TV. Kyrie said, listen, I hope y'all keep that same energy because the Holocaust was for 60 years. He said, but my people been oppressed for 350 plus years and still going on today, mentally, physically, psychologically, and spiritually. Are y'all gonna keep that same energy when people attack us? He got suspended after that night. After that conversation, within an hour of that interview, he was suspended.
Talk dribble. Well, we tired.
You remember the movement Dribble and Shut Up? LeBron and him full of shit because Kyrie is actually exercising this, but where's the movement of Dribble and Shut Up? That's why, see, they told us on SportsCenter that the Boston Celtics, the Jason Tatums and the Jaylen Browns didn't fuck with Kyrie. He was poison to a team. He was nothing. That ain't what I'm getting from Jaylen Brown, who's the leader of the Player Association, the National Basketball Players Association, NBPA. And he done doubled down in his statements. KD even was like, man, it's too much. Their first reactions. As a people, we know who you are through spiritually and who the fuck you are through your first reaction. When I'm having a conversation with a person, people should always know, yeah, I'm Irvin. Yeah, I'm Jersey. I'm Willie. But I'm an intellectual. So in your frustration, it don't make everything you're saying to me in your frustration true. Because at heart, because it could be your frustration and your hurt pinned up making you go at it. But the seed is pure. And if you pay attention to the words that's being used when they're going after you, anti-Semitism. They wanted to scare everybody from being any athlete or anybody. I dare you to say anything about any of this shit. But they ain't saying shit to the Nazis and the people that still use the protocols of Hitler.
We don't mind dribbling for you if you respect us for who we are. Thanks. We haven't asked you for nothing more than a decent paycheck for the work that we do to make you a multimillionaire and a billionaire.
Real deal.
Leave our brothers alone. Don't try to use what you're doing to Ye and Kanye. Ye and Kyrie, pardon me. So you can keep a muzzle.
To his defense, it is hard to say both of them names back to back when you know Kanye and Kyrie.
You know what I'm saying? They have a big contract with you.
It's real.
When they reached in their pocket and showed me a white envelope with the things they wanted me to do if I would have their friendship.
You see the same old rhetoric he's trying to get you to see, that when they set him down 12 years ago, they had these lists of demands.
For a protracted period of time. See, we need to watch them for a protracted period of time, because we have never done to you and your people what you and your people have done to us. We don't need to go see the Holocaust. We feel your pain.
I see in the chat right now, it says he's fair and truthful. In his truthfulness and fairness, he exposes the fake. I agree.
Because we're really human beings. You don't feel ours.
See, do you hear the words? I want you to understand how intellectual. See, when we fight with our minds, he said, see, we don't need to go to the Holocaust Museum, because as what we call black people, we feel everybody pain. The Jewish synagogue gets shot up, we feel bad for it. We feel bad for everybody pain. But we ain't got to go see that to understand pain, because we feel it. Because we're humans, men of color. Real humans. You heard the quote? So I want you to understand what Farrakhan is fed up. He said we're real humans. That's some knowledge of self for your ass. And for all those woke and wise, y'all now know what I mean. We real humans. Real humans have emotions, feelings, happy and sad, resentment, remorse, forgiveness, hate, fear, which for us was put in. But that's what being human is. He said we're real humans. So what are they? This is where the question goes on a deeper level.
For a protracted period of time, because we have never done to you and your people what you and your people have done to us. We don't need to go see the Holocaust. We feel your pain, because we're really human beings. You don't feel ours. Because to you, 1,000 blacks ain't worth the fingernail of a Jewish man. I've read these things. Yes, sir.
That's why we need to read. That statement wasn't something he made up. That 1,000 blacks weren't worth the fingernail of a Jewish man. Mentally, physically, spiritually, or wealth.
You want to have a real good dialogue so we can start afresh and anew? Because the old way is not going to work.
Yeah, he said it. I mean, real, think about it. Niggas ain't having it.
I told the rabbi and Irv Kupsinet, 2 or 3 rabbis, Irv Kupsinet, they said, well, you got your truth and we got ours. I said, it's not about your truth or my truth. It's about what is
the truth.
The truth.
See, I noticed when I was talking through years, whether friends, even family, friends, people I don't know online, you know, people would tell me like, yo, you talking to us, that's your truth. If we all got our own individual truth, then there's no truth. This individualized truth would end up becoming selfishness. If everybody on planet Earth has their own individual truth, there's no accountability, because you can say, well, my truth says that in my truth. Who made truth subjective to one person? Reality isn't subjected to one eye or to one mind. It's when multiple people in the same place see the same thing, that's reality. But when one person sees something visually, that's just vision.
If we can agree on the truth, we can build a better relationship.
So when we say the truth, my truth, no, I'm only interested in the truth. And that's the problem with a lot of the conversations I had. Motherfuckers ain't interested in the truth. You want to tell me what you know in Pan-Africanism. And I know that I got knowledge from there too, but I was only interested in the truth. So I got what I came to get and still digging, but I ain't stuck there. I said I came from the truth, so I dug in the Nation of Islam. But I'm looking for the truth, so I didn't stay there, but I'm still digging. I said I'm looking for the truth with the Moors, but I didn't stay there. I'm still digging with them and the previouses because I'm only interested in the truth, not in being favored by the minister, the pastor, the imam, whoever, the rabbi, the grand sheikh.
Now, I think we should watch you for a protracted period of time before we admit you into our heart as a friend. What about that?
Now we got the Farrakhan. That's another part of this live now. I know this is gonna hit y'all. The second part of this conversation is about a pastor, right? And I found this morning. Hold on, y'all. Where is he at? No. All right. Created equal. Now, this is a sermon by
Interested in the freedom of the whole.
Dr. Ed Young from Mississippi. This is where this conversation go. All right. Now he's talking about created equal, and listen to his points about history and being woke and how he tells this white church what being woke and stuff is on a deeper level. Hold on, y'all. They make sure, boy, they make it hard for me to find that link back again.
Totally different ball game. But in Jamestown, the secular.
Let's go back. Hold on.
Of the bigotry, the prejudice, the inhumane way Americans treated fellow human beings made in the image of God. Because if you know your history, slaves first came over here in 1619, and I do not buy the 1619 phony history. That's not what I'm saying. But they came with the settlement of Jamestown, the Massachusetts Bay Company, and they came primarily for profit and for gold. A little later, we know about Plymouth Rock when pilgrims came because they loved Jesus and they wanted to worship freely and independently in the new land. So a totally different ball game. But in Jamestown, the secular invasion of our country, they brought with them slaves, first slavery in our history. And then we know from that moment, listen, roughly 250 years, just hold on to that number. 250 years we treated fellow human beings made in the image of God as if they were animals, and sometimes worse than we treat.
Well, first he was wrong because he said 250 years. You need to add another 150 years and counting. Because 250 years is about 1750, something like that. 1790, somewhere in that, it's about 350 plus. First thing he said, I don't subscribe to the fake history. So the question I was asking myself was, is he saying that he agrees that the history of America is fake? And he's breaking it down. He's talking to a congregation of his people.
treat our own animals. That's the truth. The Constitution was written by wealthy men, intelligent men, supposedly God-fearing men, but 8 out of the first 12 presidents of the United States were slave owners. They were slave owners. Now you can build all kind of little anonymous, how people treat their slaves like family and all that, but it is brutality and it is evil any way you look at it. And now we see Dr. King came. And through prayer, he decided to bring about a revolution different from any other revolutions, except maybe when Mahatma Gandhi, through pacifism, liberated India from the British Empire through nonviolence.
See, there he go again. I hate when they do that shit. Y'all remember on Hidden Colors when they spoke about how every time they mentioned Dr. King, like outside of Dr. King's memorial, they got a statue of Mahatma Gandhi pointing at the Dr. King and Coretta Scott building, as if they're saying, I created that idea. Well, let's go deeper when we talk about ignorance of people and not knowing fucking history. History states that Gandhi didn't create that idea. It was a pharaoh in Egypt who created that concept. This is why history is important. But when he makes his point, he makes sure he takes away his ideology from him as if the nigga didn't create it. Gandhi was the forefather of that. He just chose to copy Gandhi.
Dr. King took that path.
Crazy.
It was dangerous. It was deadly. And he began through those years to do things, to say things, always in a biblical Christian context. Don't miss that. Mm-hmm. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. I submit to you that along with Billy Graham and maybe internationally Winston Churchill, Dr. Martin Luther King was the most influential individual in the 20th century by far. He saved America. He preached the gospel. He was indeed a great man. Martin Luther King, speaking at Southern Methodist University 2 years before his assassination, 1966, he said, a doctrine of black supremacy is just as dangerous as a doctrine of white supremacy. God is not interested in freedom of black man or brown man or yellow man. God is interested in the freedom of the whole human race, the creation of a society where every man will respect the dignity and worth of personality.
And that was a very slick way. That was very, 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 very wrong, but very slick way how he broke that shit down. So I want you to understand this is what this is some shit that happened like 3 weeks ago. This is a conversation from 3 weeks ago. So this is how they educate him. He said that Dr. King said black supremacy. Now, I agree with that statement depending on how you put this together. Black supremacy, like if you teaching the black man is God, but the white man is the devil, that would be considered a form of supremacy. But in some sense, they wanted to instill the black men have self-pride and self-dignity the same way the KKK doing the same thing. He's saying that they're both evil. God only cares about the freedom of man, but to say God doesn't care, when you use the example of black supremacy about a black man or the black people caring about their people getting their guys back and saying these other people are the devil who are oppressing us. That's the mindset you got to have to go to war. The white supremacy is saying we enslaved these people and we did this because we felt like we was better. But to take these two extremes on both ends and to compare it to the freedom of a black man and a brown man, that's very, very manipulating. Because God, to say God doesn't care, no, the God you serve and the God that most of y'all serve doesn't care. Because this was the same God that slavery was enforced on. And it was put on the backs of us through these gods. So of course it's easy for a any culture's man who's been in power to say, oh, don't worry about the fight of the black man and the brown man and all those people, because God don't give a damn about their fight to be free individually. He only care about the freedom of all of us. Where I don't see how that works without getting freedom for each individual sect.
Dr. King,
It's crazy.
a couple of years before his assassination at SMU. So I submit to you that we're proud to be American. I'm proud to be American, but we can't overlook this disastrous history. At the same time, all important. The color of your face says all of those in the woke agenda. What does that mean? That means, according to those in the left part of our United States, that if you were born black or some other color, that defines who you are, and you are, listen to me carefully, automatically a racist by being white.
Listen to this.
Our United States.
What?
That if you were born black or some other color, that defines who you are, and you are, listen to me carefully, automatically a racist by being white.
Now, I showed y'all a video yesterday where it was a European woman that came, that one of the forefathers of that idea. And she said that it's impossible to be white or any form of white and not to be racist if you went to school in America. I'm just showing the video. On my other live, if you go back to like 2 days ago, I'm playing that. So it's other Europeans and whites who are saying that you can't be raised in America and be a white person that's not racist unless you re-educated yourself and did your own history search, or unless you accused yourself, but it's impossible. And she said that when white people say, I'm not racist, I got 3 black friends, she said, just ask them, we'll name them all. And name them. And she go, that's how she said they're at. So this ain't just something we made up, but the way he's describing this to his church, do you see the indoctrination? I want y'all to pay attention, because this is a big ass church with thousands of white people. Let me show you how big this fucking church is. What time is it? It's on 526. I'm gonna show y'all. How big this shit is. 2 floors. People up here too. You get what I'm saying? People up here.
Doesn't matter what you've done, what you believe, where you've been, you are a racist by virtue of your birth. And more than that, and this is hard to believe, there's not a thing in the world you could ever do to repent and to convince anybody anywhere because you're white that you're not a racist.
See that he from Mississippi, so I expect this from a Mississippi white boy. Even though he's old man, he's a white boy, because he's still thinking like a white boy. What he said was all of that was bullshit.
And to convince anybody anywhere because you're white that you're not a racist.
No, we never, nobody ever said it, and none of our people ever. We're not the ones on TV who's saying like it ain't good enough, as Farrakhan said. We didn't say you can't convince yourself. For anybody of other nationalities or Europeans or Jews who watch my show get put on to it. And we never said that. Our point of view is saying at the end of the day, first accept your wrong and your accountability in this shit historically. Because if you can understand history and what was the truth about, like she said, like how that lady said, if history was told the truth about the Nile Valley, which is the Nile River, and all the people that come from it, and what it gave civilization, let's just look at the people that in America in slavery, regardless if you think they came from Africa or if they was here, and look at all of the inventions that they created. History has to be completely different. So to say that we don't know, you could be righteous and come around. If that's the case, we want to march with you. If that's the case, we want to have people, you know what I'm saying? There's people that go to white churches with white pastors, black people. If that's the case, we want to mix with you. But this is bullshit. Tell me, any black people, everybody in the chat, please tell me as black people or people of color or minorities that you don't feel that we say no matter what they do, that we always look at them as some racist crackers, as they say. No matter if they change their life for better, do good, give us reparations, help us, rebuild us, fix the history, no matter what they do, it won't be good enough. But see, if you teach this to a congregation of old to the babies that's sitting in that church, then you teaching them from a young age, you're indoctrinating them that even if you try to help the nigga, he still won't fuck with you. So we might as well keep our foot on their fucking neck.
There's no redemption. You can be anti-racist, but
see, this is what we mean when we start getting away from Christianity, not from trying to disrespect our mothers or to disrespect the idea of what it did, teaching us right and wrong, but the true form of how this shit was used during slavery. We're still using the books like how the slaves was taught to use it. But you see how he using this fucking shit? Do you see how he using this? Ain't nothing godly about this conversation.
You'll never reach the goal until you're still categorized like that. A leader of Black Lives Matter said, a matter of public record, anyone who waves an American flag by definition, whomever you are, you're a racist. Everything is tragically defined by racism. How different that is from Dr. Martin Luther King's understanding of the racial challenges we had in America then, and we progressed a great deal, but we still have some ways to go, but how far that we have come. You see,
everybody tapping in.
Tell us, as we know, the color of your face doesn't determine your character and who you are, and really you'll discover it doesn't say much about you and me. Did you know that all of our physical assets, ears, nose, mouth, body, make up 0.012 of who we are? Is that any big deal about you or about me?
You hear this shit? Dude, I mean, this shit, to me, if this is what's going on, and this is 3 weeks ago in these big mega churches, what he just said was a lie.
0.0, all of our physical assets, ears, nose, mouth, body, make up 0.012 of who we are.
All right. So you telling me out of 100% of a human body, in the human being, the brain, the soul, and the spirit, you saying that the body only makes up 1.1 whatever. Nigga, existence is based around Allah. Arm, leg, arm, head. Nigga, this is a fifth of the body. This is a fifth of the body. This is a fifth of the body. This, right, the torso, right? But all of this is really divided in these sections because the legs, right? The 5-point star, the human body. But when he went even further in the blasphemy of knowledge itself and said that the eyes, the ears, and the mouth make a point. Think about that shit. Oh, so what you hear, or what you see, what you hear, what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, that's an insult to yourself, because the computer, the hair, the eyes is scanning the environment for what's around it. So if the eyes, the ears, the nose, and the mouth only make up a small percentage, that's what existence is in this body. Now we know that our body doesn't control the being, it's what's inside this shell. But there is no existence without this shell. So please explain to me how these things only make up 0.1%. That sounds like you're comparing a body to a blood vessel. See, this is why when they say when you talk science, you can't talk religion, or history, you can't talk religion. So what can we what can we intellectually or educate, what was given to us to make rational sense? What can we compare this to that has an intellectual composition? Nothing.
Is that any big deal about you or about me? That color is all important of your skin? Go to Korea. Fly.
He's asking, so what does he's being sarcastic about saying, like, you know, he's using God as the front, but he's saying that the color of your skin don't make you important. Because see, this is all going around with Kanye talking about if it's not important, then what's the argument about? Everybody knows. We have Jewish rabbis went live recently and said we all know that the original people of God are dark-skinned people. So what does it have to do with it? What it has to do with it is the fact that when you got people that spread all over this earth from different sects, Africa, America, that was already here, and we doing all of this shit and we being enslaved, the first thing we need is pride. It's funny because I don't hear him condemning. He mentioned white supremacy, but I don't hear him really much condemning of it. Now he's from Mississippi. You gotta miss me that you don't understand what the fuck you saying. Because you understand how important race is. So when you say, what does skin have to do with God? It's just like I had a rabbi say recently, you know, God doesn't care about skin color. But as Polite told him, the Bible and these books clearly show there's a favor. But there's conviction and there's confliction between these stories and what's really being pushed.
Over Korea, and I am told that you see North Korea is totally dark at night. Go at night, it's almost totally dark, almost no light in all of North Korea. Go to South Korea, and there's lights everywhere. In South Korea, it's progressive, they're fluent, there's freedom, and arguably the most Christian nation on the earth. Go to North Korea, what did you find? The very opposite. You find the dictatorial leadership of a godless family. You find right is determined by might. You define a military entity when people are starving. Education is practically none.
So it's good that South Korea is a Christian nation. And it's good because they got lights and they more civilized. When you go to North Korea, the people basically the part, because you know they separated where they still had their families and rulers. And you know, but it's okay for Queen Elizabeth to be in England and Europe and the Pope and to live like that. But it ain't okay for somebody of China who still got lineage back to those dark-skinned people who started the dynasty, who mixed with Europeans. So we're gonna talk about how one side of Korea feel like the other side of the Korea is the white man of Korea. So he's gonna talk to you about this. We ain't gonna educate you about the lighter skinned Koreans and what side they live on. And which Koreans are working with the U.S. government at free will and allow them to put their military there and let them do whatever the fuck they want to do for protection.
Existence, and they live almost as slaves in North Korea. You say, well, the difference is the color of their skin. The difference is not the color of their skin. The difference is the Lord Jesus Christ.
But the difference between the people in South and North Korea is the color of their skin. That's why they call one side the Europeans of, like, basically the lighter skinned ones versus the other ones. Let's see. Let's see. Give me a second. We're going to do something as simple as Google. Let me see. So I'm looking at Koreans because, you know, Google could be slick. And then South Korean. See, it's funny. I put South Korean indigenous people. Okay, so this is either this will give you an idea, because when you go on Google, they ain't gonna really show you the truth. You see this? So it is a big factor about the color of their skin. But if we look it up on Google, they're gonna keep showing you the same light-skinned people on both sides. But on a deeper level, it's not. The North Koreans is where the lighter ones are, I believe, in the South Koreans. Or the rulers, should I say, because I don't want to get it backwards. That's why I was trying to be very careful, because it's very slick, you know what I'm saying, about how they go about it. Either way, I'm just showing you that they're using things that's in his logic and how he's lining this up. His name is Dr. Ed Young. And he's part of the Baptist Church of Houston, Clanville. I play a little more of this before I get out of here.
Martin Luther was a revolutionary. He said, we're not saved by good works, and I'm better than you, and I do more than you, and God's going to rank us up there. He said from the passage of Ephesians 3 and many other places, your salvation and my salvation is based on grace by faith in Jesus Christ. And that is the gospel that Dr. King preached throughout.
If that's so true, respectfully, then that means the people that's Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Israelite, all the rest of these, if it's no, so you're telling me that all the people in the world, that all of it's people of all nationalities, all religions, that are just pure-hearted, good people, and they help others, and they're open-minded, and they don't mind talking, and they're so you telling me that the fact that the only thing that's going to bring us together is Jesus? I'm out. BH.